Karan made paper boats. Paper boats were made by Karan. These sentences are different, but they both describe the same action. The first sentence, Karan made paper boats, is in the active voice. The second sentence, paper boats were made by Karan, is in the passive voice. In this lesson, we will learn about active and passive voice and how you can change sentences from one voice to the other.
In this lesson, you will learn about the active and passive voice. Along the way, you will recognize active and passive voice in sentences, learn how to change the active voice to passive voice, learn how to change the passive voice to active voice, and recognize sentences and questions that are in neither the passive voice nor the active voice.
Let us start by looking at the active voice. Later in the lesson, you will also learn about passive voice. In this sentence, Karan has done an action. He has made paper boats. When someone or something does an action, you see the verb is in the active voice. A sentence in the active voice begins with the person or thing that does the action. In this case, Karan. Let's look at another sentence. In order to find out if this sentence is in the active voice, check that the person or thing that is being talked about is actually doing the action. If so, the verb is in the active voice. In this sentence, the pup is doing the action of chewing. So, this sentence is in the active voice. Let us take a look at some other sentences where the sentence is in the active voice. The cat is climbing the tree. In this sentence, we are talking about the cat doing something. So, the sentence is in the active voice. The guard on the train waved the green flag. Here, the guard did the action of waving the flag. So, the sentence is in the active voice.
Click the sentences where the person or thing doing the action is highlighted correctly. Well done! These are the correct answers.
Karan splashed water everywhere. This sentence is in the active voice. But how would you express this in the passive voice? Water was splashed everywhere by Karan. This sentence is in the passive voice. Both these sentences tell us that Karan splashed water everywhere. In both sentences, the action is the same, of splashing water. In the first sentence, you can tell that the voice is active because the doer of the action, Karan, comes first in the sentence. In the second sentence, Karan does not come first in the sentence. The water does. The water is not splashing. It is being splashed. So, it is the receiver of the action. When a sentence begins with the receiver of an action, the sentence is in the passive voice. So, if we have a sentence describing an action, how do we know whether the first thing in the sentence is the doer of the action or the receiver of the action? Well, we simply need to look at the verb in the sentence. The verb in the active voice always changes in the passive voice. In the first sentence, Karan splashed tells us that Karan was the doer of the action. Splashed is the verb in the active voice. In the second sentence, water was splashed tells us that the water was the receiver of the action. Was splashed is the verb in the passive voice. Let's look at another example. Karan made paper boats. This sentence is in the active voice as Karan is the doer of the action. Paper boats were made by Karan. This sentence is in the passive voice because the paper boats are the receiver of the action. Also, the verb made has changed to were made. There is one more thing to notice in the passive voice. Look at these sentences. The phrase by Karan comes after the verb in both sentences. This means that even when the sentence is in the passive voice, we know who the doer of the action is.
Here are 5 sentences in the passive voice. Click the sentences where the person or thing on which the action is being done is highlighted correctly. Well done. These are the correct answers.
Has the pup found the ball? This question is in the active voice because the doer of the action, the pup, comes first in the sentence. Has the ball been found by the pup? This question is the passive voice because the receiver of the action, the ball, comes first. Also, the verb found in the first question has changed to been found in the second, and the word by is used. Sometimes we come across questions that are in neither the active voice nor the passive voice. Look at this sentence. Is the ball colorful? In this question, there is no action and no doer or receiver. This question is just asking whether the ball is colorful or not. This question is in neither the active voice nor passive voice. Similarly, we often come across statements that are in neither active nor passive voice. Look at this sentence. The ball is small and colorful. In this sentence, the state of the ball is being described. There is no doer or receiver of an action. So, the statement is neither active nor passive. It simply describes a state of being. What a playful pup! This sentence is an exclamation. It ends with an exclamation mark. It does not describe an action, just a state of being. The focus is on the pup's nature and not on the doer or receiver of an action. So, this sentence is neither active nor passive.
Some of these sentences are in the active voice, some in the passive, and some in neither the active nor passive voice. Drag each sentence to the correct box. Not exactly. These are the correctly sorted sentences.
The boat was seen by Karan. This sentence is in the passive voice. How do you change it back to the active voice? Remember, in the passive voice, the subject of the sentence, the person or thing mentioned first, is the thing or person on whom the action is done. In other words, the receiver of the action. If you want the sentence to be in the active voice, the subject must be the person who is doing the action. So, let's start the active sentence with Karan. You also need to change the verb from the passive form to the active form. Karan is the doer of the action. What did Karan do? He saw. So, was seen becomes saw. What did Karan see? The boat. So, this is the sentence in the active voice. Karan saw the boat. Have you noticed something else? We do not need to include by in the active voice.
Here are some more passive sentences. Let's convert them into active sentences. Click each sentence to see how it can be converted from the passive to the active voice. The doer of the action is Mr. Puri, so he is mentioned first in the active sentence. Also, the verb was lifted becomes lifted in the active voice. The receiver of the action of eating, that is ice cream, is mentioned first in the passive sentence, but in the active voice, it comes after the subject Smriti. The verb was eaten becomes ate in the active voice. Who enjoyed the sunshine? The children. As the children are the doers of the action, they come first in the active sentence. Note also that the verb was enjoyed becomes enjoyed. Some of these sentences are in the active voice and some are in the passive voice. Drag each sentence to the correct box. Well done! These are the correctly sorted sentences.
Karan's pup found a ball. So when should you use the active voice and when should you use the passive voice? The active voice is used when you want to focus on the doer of the action. In the sentence, Karan's pup found a ball. The focus of the sentence is the pup because the pup is the doer of the action. Now look at this sentence. A ball was found by Karan's pup. The passive voice focuses on the person or thing that has the action done to it. In other words, the receiver of the action. So in the sentence, a ball was found by Karan's pup, which do you think is the receiver of the action? The pup or the ball? That's right, the ball. So now you know that if you want to focus on the doer of the action, you use the active voice. If you want to focus on the receiver of the action, you use the passive voice.
Drag the correct word or group of words to each space to complete the sentences in the passive voice. Ensure that the conversion from active to passive is correct. Well done. These are the correctly completed sentences. Okay, let's look at what you have learned. In the active voice, the focus is on the doer of the action. In the passive voice, the focus is on the receiver of the action. The verb in the active voice shows the action of the doer, and the verb in the passive voice shows the action being done to someone or something. The word by plus the doer of the action is often added at the end of a sentence in the passive voice. In sentences that are neither in the active voice nor passive voice, there is no doer or receiver of an action.